Welcome back. This time we're talking about Beauty and the Beast, the latest animated film that Disney has decided to convert into a live-action version. Following in the footsteps of Maleficent, which was a remake of Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, and The Jungle Book, and will be followed by plenty of other adaptations as Disney works its way through its entire animated catalog. Now, like with most remakes, you can approach this new film in two different ways. One as a film in itself, and two as a remake of a classic movie. And I'm going to do the first, and then move on to the second. The 2017 version of Beauty and the Beast was directed by Bill Condon, who has already given us a live-action musical in Dreamgirls, as well as the Twilight films Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Part 2. And I have to say, this is a very well-made movie. It's actually a very good movie. It looks great, it's very well acted, it's got great sets, costumes, special effects, and makeup, all combining together to tell this classic story of Beauty and the Beast. But in case you're somehow not familiar with the 1991 animated film, the story follows a young woman named Belle, here played by Emma Watson, who lives in this small provincial French town with her widowed father, Maurice, played by Kevin Kline. And she spends her days helping her father, reading books, and avoiding the advances of the most eligible bachelor in town, Gaston, played by Luke Evans. And wherever you see Gaston, you'll always see his hanger-on LeFou, played by Josh Gad. One day, Belle's father leaves to go to the market and becomes lost and finds this seemingly abandoned castle. And there he encounters the Beast, played here by Dan Stevens, and discovers that most of the furniture is actually alive. Of course, Belle goes to look for her father, encounters the castle and the Beast, and thus our story is set. And like I said, this is a very well-made movie. I really have no complaints from a production standpoint. The special effects, recreating these live-action versions of all of the furniture, really does a good job. It appears that the Beast's makeup is actually makeup, and that looks great. The acting is great. Emma Watson's always going to be Hermione to me, but here she became Belle. She embodied that character, and I thought she did a great job. Luke Evans was Gaston, and Josh Gad provided a very funny LeFou. And all of the various actors and actresses who provided the voices of the furniture, including Ian McKellen, all of them did great as well. As a movie, I really have very few complaints about it. Again, if you saw the trailers and thought, I want to go see this, I think you're going to enjoy it. It's an iconic story with phenomenal music and songs. Which unfortunately brings us to the other side of the equation here, and that's that this story and these songs we've seen and heard before. Just might have been 26 years ago when Disney released the animated Beauty and the Beast, which just happens to be the first animated film to ever be nominated for Best Picture. And essentially why we have a Best Animated Feature category at the Academy Awards, to make sure that would never happen again. And it didn't, at least not until the Academy expanded out the Best Picture category to beyond 5 films. So this new movie is, with a few exceptions, a pretty carbon copy of the 1991 animated classic. The songs are there word for word. Most of the scenes are there word for word. I did look, this film has about an extra maybe 40 minutes of runtime. And I would imagine that's partly due to an extra long run of credits, as well as some padding here or there, and 2 noticeable additions to the film as far as scenes go. We get a new prologue scene that gives a little bit more backstory on the Beast, and then an interlude scene that gives us a little bit of information about Belle's mother. And both of those scenes are accompanied by a new song, although neither of them are nearly as good as the original songs from the original film. So that does leave me somewhat in a quandary. I cannot honestly say that this new film is bad. It's not. It's very well made, very enjoyable. If you like Beauty and the Beast, I think you're going to like this movie. The problem is if you do like Beauty and the Beast, you've seen this movie already, because there's very little difference. The opening scene gives a little bit more information, and it answers a couple of the questions that fans have always had about the movie. Namely, sort of the time gap as far as how old the prince was. We get a little bit of information about that, and also why no one seems to miss the prince in this castle and everyone that works there. But they basically answer that with one line of voiceover dialogue, and that's it. The second extra scene about Belle's mother honestly didn't do much for me. It felt like it was trying to go in a particular direction with one of the characters to give them a little bit more emotional depth. But honestly, it didn't ultimately go anywhere, because I didn't feel like it changed any of the characters or really gave us any kind of better understanding of them. It was just mostly an excuse to have another song. Is there a reason for this remake to exist? And aside from money, the primary reason for this film to exist is to present the animated story in live action form. If you believe that that jump from animation to live action is worthy of having a whole new film, and you're willing to fork over the money to watch it, and you don't feel like you've been, taken by that, by all means, go enjoy this movie. It's a very enjoyable movie. But I can't help thinking that if you're a real big fan of the animated classic, a film that I honestly didn't rewatch going into this because I was afraid of this very thing, that it was going to be so true that I honestly didn't want to watch the same movie twice in 1 week, well, you're going to have that issue. This is the animated Beauty and the Beast, just told in live action form, with some extra padding and a few extra scenes and 2 songs that I honestly wouldn't have missed in the slightest if they weren't there. So ultimately, if you want to go see this movie, go see it. If you feel like there was no reason for this movie to exist and you have no interest in seeing it, I can't argue with you there either. So let me turn it over to you. If you've seen Beauty and the Beast, what did you think about it? Did you think that this new remake gives us enough new things that it was really worth making? As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.